Hello everyone, welcome back to Elevator TV. Yes, the channel's name has changed. It's no longer Elevator Talks. I just thought Elevator TV was a little bit more all-encompassing. I don't know. Yes, hi, hello, welcome back to my 8 subscribers. Hey, look, gotta start somewhere, right? Excuse me, stop being so rude. No, but welcome back. I have had, like a 3-month hiatus. Sorry, a lot's been going on, guys. A lot has been going on in my own personal life, in my, I don't know, I guess professional life, whatever professional means, and in the world. So yeah, a lot's been happening, but I'm back. I'm back on the YouTube. I'm gonna try and be a bit more consistent. I just like to have fun with this. I really enjoy doing it, so you know, whatever. Here is the 3rd part of the Succession series. As you guys know, I discovered Succession this year and fell head over heels, and I just thought that the show just brings about so many questions about so many real life things, and those are the type of shows that really excite me and sort of hook me in. And I guess part 3 is the most interesting out of all because it sort of like, you know, it wasn't planned obviously because I filmed this like 3 months ago, and you'll see that my hair was a little bit shorter back then as well. But I mean, the things I'll be discussing in part 3 are seriously like real life things, especially things that have happened in the last couple of months. So that will be very interesting. It was not intentional, but you know, we'll talk about, you know, power politics, you know, the people at the top and, you know, the rich and how they can sort of evade crime and sort of get away with everything. And I mean, I don't know if that's not something that's sort of happening right now. I don't know what it is. And yeah, it's a very fun and exciting one. We talk a lot about representation. Well, not a lot of, but there's a section about representation and diversity on the show and things like that. So yeah, I really hope you enjoy part 3, and I hope that, yeah, you just, I'm literally in the middle of recording.
Shit.
I told you I was busy, bro. Can't you respect that?
Sorry, I was looking up.
No, are you serious right now?
Hi everyone. Sorry, I won't bother you after this.
What? I don't understand people.
What do you think of it?
Anyways, but yeah, anyways, enjoy the video. New video coming soon. Okay, let's just leave. So now let's talk about some of the themes that are presented in Succession. Some of the sort of bigger, grander questions of life and of the media system or the political system, and what this show aims to, I think, sort of achieve in addressing these things. Initially, when I researched the show, it was way before I had even watched it, on Wikipedia it described the show as a satiric drama comedy or comedy drama, which I thought was interesting because I was like, I don't think it's satiric. Like, I don't think it's satire at all. Like, I just think, again, like I said, it terrifies me because I know for a fact, like I would bet money on this, that there are people like this in the world. And not only just people like this, but people at the very top, the very, you know, the powerful, the influential. And again, a big part of that is, look at Donald Trump, look at the Trump family, look at Donald Trump's rhetoric even before he was president. He would publicly say obscene and completely uneducated and just things that are, I mean, things that are not factuals, like I would say, you know, just things that you pull out of your own ass because they're clogging up too much. So you just pull it out and you give people your shit because you gotta unclog, you know what I'm trying to say? And I'm sorry if that's sort of repulsive or vile, but you know, a lot of Logan Roy's behavior is that. It's, you know, he swears a lot, and it's not just about the swearing, because I swear, but he's sort of almost, he's verbally, and I think that the interesting thing is that we laugh, I'm gonna say I laugh at the verbal, I laugh, because you think it's funny. Oh, he's verbally his kids and his staff.
Fucking amateur hour at the fucking circus.
People come to us because we don't sell them on anything. No packet of fucking bleeding heart, United Nations, Volvo, gender bender horse shit. Why can't he come to us?
Well, I guess he's the president.
Fucking Californian shrunken little raisin.
You think it's funny, but then you also think to yourself, oh, like especially with everything that's going on now. I mean, if you think about, you know, the controversy surrounding the Ellen show and sort of like, you know, everything that's unfolding in Hollywood, you know, about Me Too and things like that, and you're starting to realize that, oh, this is the type of shit that people are talking about, that this is how people at the top treat either their employers or their colleagues or whatever it is, and people are just fed up with this sort of behavior. However, in Succession, it's weird because it's tricky. You start to accept it, right? Like you accept that Logan Roy is like that. He just speaks like that, and they always refer to him as Logan Roy, the myth, the man, the myth, the legend. And sure, you know, he created this great company and it's incredibly successful and profitable, but at the same time, what we see of him is this abusive, cold, distant father who doesn't even seem to show some sort of love or care for his kids. You know, there's a scene in the end of the season 2 finale where Kendall, who kind of gets into a row with, not a row, but I guess into a bit of a fling or relationship, if you want to call it that, with Naomi. And he, you know, Kendall, because Logan had told Kendall to basically get rid of Naomi for the weekend because he was notified that she was coming. And Kendall had notified, you know, Logan's people, but he didn't know, and he just wanted her out of the family yacht, the family vacation or whatever. Basically, Kendall, knowing that that's fucking absurd, and not just absurd but rude and embarrassed, completely tells Naomi, oh, but you know, he loves me though. Like, you just have to understand, like, he's that way. And Naomi says something extremely powerful again, which comes back to the point of the women in the show. Yes, it's so male dominated, but the lines that the women deliver, Naomi said, Kendall, he doesn't love you, he loves the broken parts of you. And I'm like, that is exactly what I feel like I've been trying to muster or try to categorize Kendall's experience, because I think that especially after the tragic thing that happens with that young boy that Kendall was with, which we'll talk about in a minute, and this sort of like evasion of crime of the rich is just so, you know, prevalent, is that Logan preys on the insecurities and the sort of gaps in his kids' lives and uses that to his advantage. With Shiv, you know, he really takes that sort of proximity he has with her, as, you know, the daddy and daughter relationship, and you know, he uses that to sort of keep her in line. He does, because from the beginning, I mean, yes, we know Siobhan to be incredibly ambitious and wanting to do something different, whether or not that is within the company itself. We know her to be someone who just wants to do her own thing. She set out her own path. In whatever job she's in, as CEO of Waystar or as a presidential candidate, you know what I mean? And time and time again, Logan uses that to his advantage. He uses that relationship that they have to manipulate her in this position of submission. As with Roman, who is so insecure about a lot of things, you know, sexual dysfunction, or maybe not, or maybe like he has a fantasy or some sort of kinky habit that he has that he's afraid to share, or Roman's inadequacy in business, you know, doesn't really know anything about actual corporate stuff, but he's good at people skills. So his father preys on that and tells him, that's alright, son, you know, use the only thing that I guess you might be good at to my advantage. I think it's very interesting, because I'm not saying I don't like Logan Roy, I just don't like a lot of the things that he does. And I think that he's a sort of character, or if he is based on a human being, who has used people and broken the backs of many people to get where he is. And I think that in general, that is just the allegorical and metaphorical message of his whole character, is that we praise these huge media conglomerates and the Bill Gates of the world and the Jeff Bezos, and we forget that they got there because they finessed their way out of a system that is already unequal, abusive, you know, extremely, you know, self-serving, but they finessed it. To get to the level that they got to, they had to finesse it. They had to do more damage. They had to do more abuse, more inequality. And obviously, Logan doesn't have, he's not politically correct, you know, he doesn't give a shit. Like, I think that Kendall is way more sort of new age and well-spoken, and I think the only time that he was saying anything or kind of saying anything demeaning or inappropriate was when, you know, he was in his sort of depressive state and when he's back, you know, in his drug use. But then, still, and again, this is, you know, this has to do with how masterful and great the writing actually is you kind of like him. Like, why? Because it's a human story. At the end of the day, like, he still has these moments, and I think that this is, I guess, in accreditation to, this is credited to the camera angles and the sort of way that the show is filmed and shot. You know, in a way, you still see these little moments of genuinity. That's not English. Is that English? You just see these little moments, you catch these little glimpses of him being genuine. But you don't know what it's for, though. Like, you don't know, are you genuine because of that or that? He's amazing. He's amazing. You know, Logan Roy. But yeah, that's that. So yeah, I think that one of the main themes of the show is this whole of the function of the people at the very top. You know, how they're able to evade crime. Let's talk about that. So, obviously, throughout the second season, the whole cruises scandal kind of happens. And it's a story that we're all too familiar with. Like, we're not watching this whole cruises narrative and going, oh my god, so unbelievable. Like, we've seen this many times, okay? Like, basically, at this point, they're writing in real story. Like this is like a document. This is a documentary. This is not even a TV show. It's not even fictional at this point, because we all know, like, yeah, you know, like, corporate covering of crime and corporate covering of systemic racism, all that stuff. And now that it's come out, you sort of see the behind the scenes work of how much we're just numbers to these people. We're just numbers, these people, which is so interesting when we pledge our loyalty to things like Amazon and Microsoft and Apple and all these huge, or Disney or Netflix or all these huge companies. And it's like, we're just numbers to them. You know, we're just collateral damage. You know, like, does it matter about the women that were, the people whose rights were taken away, whose rights were violated? No, it doesn't. Why? Because we're just, and you know, you see the sort of like, oh my god, the scandal. Like, there's only one moment where Kendall goes, hey guys, this is wrong, right? Like, this is really wrong, which, so I love Kendall. This is my favorite. But even then, it's just very brief. And you see that. You're like, dang, like, really, what about these women? And I think that that's the question that keeps getting asked. What about those women? And I think that the show shows you clearly that corporations will not protect you. They don't care. They care only about what is their reputation, and they only care about what's coming in their pocket. And I think also, which is cool and interesting, is that when the horse cruiser story came out in the show, how Logan was like, this is Sandy and this, you know, Stewie trying to take me out. What? This is your company and the crimes they committed. Who's trying to take you out? Like, I rest my case. Yo, this is Editing Aliva. Hello. I just want to add on to that as well with this whole sort of corporate covering and kind of relaying it back to what's happened in the last couple of months with the presidential election. I didn't, you know, obviously I filmed this months ago, so I would have never sort of known or even imagined that we would be here, but, you know, just to sort of tie it in with more current events, you know, you see powerful people, corporations, people at the top, the moment that they're being blamed or, you know, I guess made accountable for the things that they do wrong, all of a sudden it's a setup. All of a sudden it's, you know, it's fraud. Or, you know, it can't be true, though. It can't be true that you find something wrong about us, even though we are the ones that have literally done the harm. And I think it's just, you know, that's the, again, most beautiful thing about Succession is that and I guess the scariest thing, and I mentioned this already, you know, it does really seem like it is a documentary at this stage, or almost like a foreshadowing. I remember when we watched, when I was watching Homeland a couple years ago, it felt like almost everything Homeland was talking about was actually happening in real life, and sort of seeing like as if Succession sort of is gonna be like one of those shows too. But yeah, that's just an interesting fact. So basically, I mean, it just talks about how the rich can get away with crime. They can get away with anything, and you know, throw money, throw influence. One of the things that's also really interesting is this whole inclusion of how Logan Roy is close friends and buddies with, like, you know, presidents and things like that, which I think is supposed to like kind of cast a very I think it's supposed to cast light on this whole like rich people being friends with presidents, aka Jeffrey Epstein and Bill Clinton, or, you know, rich people being friends with the Bushes. I can't name names because I don't know them, not because I care. And I think that, you know, like there's a scene where Logan is like, you know, because the president is busy, doesn't want to see him or can't see him or whatever, he's like, that blah blah blah, something Democrat, something, maybe I'm wrong there, but something, I don't know.
People come to us because we don't sell them on anything. No packet of fucking bleeding heart, United Nations, Volvo, gender bender horseshit. Why can't he come to us?
Well, I guess he's the president.
Fucking Californian shrunken little raisin.
And I'm like, wow. Not only do you know these people on a first name basis, but you are literally, you're tearing them down on a personal level? Like, you be knowing them like that? Like, I mean, think about the sort of power. Think about the sort of monopolization of power that you must have to literally be buddy with like a president and like take a jet and just go and see him and have lunch, or, you know, like, or like, oh, don't worry, like, I'll talk to the president, my friend, who will move mountains on my behalf. You know? And I think that this puts to light again, as the election comes up in the United States, that the people who put presidents in power wanted that president there. Take it however you want to take it, but the people who were president, yeah, they were voted in by the people, but they are maneuvers. There are people behind the scenes moving. Me again, I just want to clarify this statement. This is not me at all saying that the election was fraudulent. That is not the narrative. No, what I mean by that statement is by people moving, you know, behind the scenes is just so much to the, you know, I guess on the perspective of the shock of the American conservative parties and the GOP in how crazy this Trump administration has been and blah, 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 but you put him there. You know what I mean? You nominated this man and you put him there, and now that he's acting all crazy and trying to tear up the Constitution and tear up democracy, now you're acting like you're shocked. So that's what I'm saying about that. I'm not saying the other thing, because I'm not even going to we're not even going to give that a time of day, because that is just moving on. There's always is, and I think that this is what's so groundbreaking about Succession, is I think it's an unprecedented look into rich white corporate America, and it's done in such a way that is so, it's just so vile and honest, and I think that that's the scary part of it. I personally haven't watched a show like Succession. I think there have been shows before that kind of give you the behind the scenes of how the rich and the famous work, but I think this is just because when you understand the sort of power and influence that the Roys have, it sort of like, you know, actualizes it for you. Especially like, I remember a couple of years ago when Disney bought Fox? Yeah, when Disney bought 21st Century Fox, and everybody knew it was a big deal. Everybody was talking about how big deal it was, and they bought it for $7 billion. But I feel like when I watched Succession, and I tried to see how, you know, Logan was trying to buy out Pierce, you know, the other media company, I just, for the first time, I was like, oh, like, you know, and then even them, like, throwing all these numbers around and all these, like, completely unrelatable. I can't relate to this. This is, come on, like, you know, I can't even spend $50 without my hair falling out. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm just like, oh my. And these people are just like, yeah, I'll buy a company, $70 billion, 10 like, you send me 100 million. I think another interesting theme of the show, and I think which is the most powerful and personal theme and point, is this whole familial aspect, the relationship between those kids and their dad. And I think it's also very interesting that we don't get to meet their mother until a little bit later on in the show, and we start to realize that, man, these kids didn't have parents. And I know, again, remember what the show does. It doesn't tell you, it shows you. But you really see it, especially when Kendall, I think in season 2, is trying to bond with his mum. Trying to want to have this motherly love and motherly connection. And you can just see that she doesn't want to be there. And that's sad. That's sad, because no matter how old you become, the matter of fact is kids just want to be loved and accepted by their parents. That's it. No matter, even if you're a grown-ass man or a grown-ass woman or a grown-ass individual, you know, it doesn't matter. And I think that, you know, let's talk a little bit about, I think that there was a really disturbing scene for me where I stopped laughing at Logan's towards his children. I kind of started, it took me back. Because, I mean, like I said, Logan is verbally, he has always said sort of verbally demeaning things to his children, and especially Kendall, like, you know, telling him things like, you're not going to amount to anything.
It's my fucking company. You are a fucking nobody.
Again, because I think that you put yourself in his shoes, you think, yeah, well, my parents have said mean things to me, or my siblings have said mean things to me, but then when you take a step back, I think there was a scene that made me really take a step back and think about the way Logan was treating his kids, and that was, I think, when the whole cruises scandal was starting to come up. I think they were at that summit, and they had a panel, and then, you know, basically Shiv, you know, she was coming for her dad with a statement that she said, and then they were in this sort of like debrief room, and, you know, of course, Roman being Roman makes a joke about it, and, you know, then, you know, Logan, who's sitting right next to him, hits him in the face.
For the line.
Oh, I think it was pretty clear that I was talking about...
No, it was clear, yeah. You tortured the old dinosaur. You barbecued him live,
Don't fuck with me! Hey! No! Don't fucking touch him!
It's okay.
Dad, no!
Played well, okay? The word is it played well. It's okay.
Bro, you... Okay, here.
Okay.
You alright?
To me, like, I was like, I never thought that there might have been a physical aspect to this, but then it really just took me back, and I'm sure it took the audience back, but as it's done in succession, everything is on the equilibrium of being serious and playful. There's really just no like, oh, there's more. Everything is just like, this is serious, but then it becomes playful really quickly. So it's kind of like, oh, you know, it takes you back, but it's like, where am I? What's happened? And that's a storyline that I think, you know, that's again one of the things of the show. You know, they just drop these things and they tell you this might be there, but there's no real confirmation ever. There's never really there's no closure, but it's okay. It's okay because you don't need it, the closure, in a way, because you know what it means. Like, this father just hit his son, and he's like, yeah, I'm fine. And then I think in the next episode, Logan tries to brush it off as if it didn't happen. And so does Roman. Roman is also like, yeah, you know what, yeah, it doesn't really matter how, like, but it's like, your father hit you, like, you know, and that's what I'm saying, is that it's so complicated, it's heartbreaking, and it's sad, and I think that a lot of people who watch this show will tell you the same thing, which is, man, you don't know whether or not to cry or to laugh. Because the funny moments are funny, but the sad moments are sad. They're really, really sad because, yeah, you fall in love with these characters. You know, you root for Kendall or Shiv or Connor. I mean, okay, if you're rooting for Connor, I mean, you have to leave me a comment and tell me why. Like, please explain to me why. Why Connor? But that's alright. What did he call his fans? Conheads? Or maybe you're rooting for Roman or any of the other girls, Marsha or Tabitha, Rava. We haven't spoken about Rava. Pause. We'll come to Rama. Yeah, so I think that it's very interesting. It's just one of the things about the show, again, that it pulls you into so many different emotional directions. You never know where you're going. Like, you don't know what episode will take you, and I think you also don't know what certain episodes might trigger for you, or what sort of things it might remind you of, or yeah. Anyways, so I definitely think I feel bad for those kids. I do, and I think that the series intro, I think, is a good ode or allusion to that idea. If you watch the Succession theme song, which is, by the way, how I found out about the show, because I was listening to, because when I like to write, I like to listen to some, I guess you'd say, like either classical music or series main scores, and I was listening to Antiphon by Nicholas Brittle, who also does the main score for Succession. And Succession, the main score came next, and I said, oh my gosh, this is fire. Like, the beat was fire. There's a very kind of hip-hoppy vibe. And I was like, man, this is so cool. And then that's when I found out about the show. Then I Googled it, and I did, I tried to find out more about it and whatever. And long story short, the main intro, the image of the kids and the mansions and the sort of like huge city, all that. But if you see it, the first season is about at the very end, before it enters into the episode, before it tells you written by blah, there's a young boy and a father, and the father leaves. That's for number one, the season number one. That's for the first season, number one. Then the second season, there's the kids lined up, and then the father, maybe the father doesn't know. It's just all the kids lined up. So I think that pay attention to the main title score. Because it tells you, again, it doesn't really tell you, it shows you. You just have to pinpoint that out yourself as a film or TV critical analyzer. Hey guys, me again. So I am so devastated because I filmed an entire, probably 10-15 minute rant about the diversity issue in Succession, and I can't seem to find it. I don't know where it is. For the life of me, I'm looking everywhere and I can't seem to find it, and I haven't touched this video and this topic in so long that I'm sure the file must have gotten lost somewhere. But anyways, I'm going to try and do my best and sum up everything that I think about in terms of the representation and diversity in Succession. Now, let's start first and foremost with acknowledging the fact that, yeah, this show, it's about rich white people and the people at the top and yada, yada, yada. And, so I guess, if they're trying to, even though they're constantly sort of rejected, they say it's not about the Murdochs. I mean, everybody knows it's about the Murdochs, okay? And sure, the Murdoch family, they're white, right? And if you're trying to sort of emulate that world and do justice to the representation of that world, then obviously you're putting in, white people and sort of factoring the privilege that comes with that. Now, having said all that though, I think at the same time, it's 2020, and the fact that for me in 2020, despite everything that we talk about, despite everything that's happening in the world, creators still sort of, they don't make it a priority to have a diverse cast. And I know a lot of people might disagree with me and come for me and be like, whatever it is, they're trying to represent that world and blah, blah, blah. But it's not like there are no black people in that world. And a perfect example of this is when they were trying to buy out, the other company, PGM, whatever it is, from the Pierce family. And that was another white family that came, into the show, into the mix. And, sure, again, like I said, that world is just, full of privileged white people. But that would have been a perfect opportunity to bring in diversity and bringing a different sort of aspect of the media conglomerate world in the show. We have the Oprahs of the world, we have the Tyler Perrys of the world, and whilst there are sort of certain streaks of diversity, like for example, there is, if you look in season 1, during the board meeting, where Kendall tries to do the takeover, there is Aisha, I think she's in the board meeting, and then there is, I think, another either Southeast Asian or Middle Eastern, sort of representation of people there, and, that's, that's noteworthy, but it's still not, still doesn't speak to the fact of the need to have, people of color in TV series. And I know that people think that if we're calling for diversity, that it's a broken record, but if you're gonna, showcase real life and real people, there exists other people other than white people. There exists the narrative. I remember, I love Jeremy Strong. I think he's a phenomenal actor. I think he's criminally underrated, and I think his role as Kendall Roy has been like the most heartbreaking and just heart-wrenching. Honestly, he's so good at that role. Incredible. But, obviously that people, talk about sort of the diversity, I guess, issue. And he said that, people shouldn't expect diversity anytime soon because the show is trying to stay true to, the actuality of people in the media conglomeracy. And, look, I agree with him, but at the same time, it's easy to sort of accept that as the truth if you are already being represented. If you're a white person and you constantly see yourself represented, why do you won't feel the need to revolt? You don't feel the need to take action. You can sit with that statement. You can be like, well, there's not going to be any diversity because it's about white people. So it's like, of course, because if you see yourself, why would you be bothered? You wouldn't be bothered, right? And it's only people who don't see themselves, who are not represented, they're the ones that are going to be like, actually, hey, I don't see myself here. So, and I think that's the issue, I think, especially in relation to not just diversity in the industry, but sort of in terms of like, addressing race relations and racism and prejudice and all those things within our world, is that people need to start understanding that just because it doesn't affect you, it doesn't mean that it's a necessity or that it doesn't exist. Just because the show is just about white people doesn't mean that they can't include people of color more often and give them a bit more of presence, or acknowledge the fact that there are also black media conglomerates, there are also really black rich people, or Southeast Asian rich people. And I know like there was one part, again, like they talk a lot about like Middle Eastern money, and I don't want to say, I'm not going to say it because I don't think that's politically correct, but, like Middle Eastern money and like those people, and they recognize that, right? Like when Roman's looking out for investors, like they recognize that. So I think, look, it's 2020. I'm honestly, I'm not taking anything from anyone who tells me that they just couldn't write in diversity. Like you're choosing not to at this point. I'm sorry. Like, and I'm a fan of the show, don't get me wrong. And it hurts my soul that I love it as much as I do, especially since it doesn't have as much diversity. But you know what, like hopefully they do better. But I'm tired of hoping. I'm tired because look, man, essentially the audience, is what's making the show run right now. And so, I guess, is it too bad if I want to, see you know what I mean? I don't know. And another thing I guess I also want to mention is the situation with Rava and Kendall's kids. So I think this is where sort of, I guess, the diversity question kind of comes in a little bit, just because it's, again, nothing in Succession is ever explained, but one of Kendall's children, I think, is of Southeast Asian descent. And that's a, what's it called? That's an example of diversity. But again, it's not something that's, it's at the back of your mind. I think I've seen plenty of Reddit posts about, people trying to explain, that situation, but nobody knows. I don't think we'll ever know. And, we don't always have to make the fact that the show's being diverse is like, but we're diverse. No, but it's like at the same time, the lack of diversity is also very apparent. Does that make sense? And I think Jesse Armstrong and the whole writing team, they're so masterful in what they do. I just really think they should just work on this diversity thing. So that's it. That's the diversity thing. Yes, 7 minutes. Whew, I thought it was going to go forever. But yeah, let me know what you think. But, back to my final thoughts now. Additionally, in reference to representation, I also wanted to add that when they were making the main score, the Succession main score, the theme song or theme piece of music that plays, Nicholas Brittle, I think it was in a Vanity Fair sort of like interview, he said that The main score, you know, has some like hip hop beat influence, which you can definitely hear. Like it's very sort of like, it's got beat, you know, you can groove to it. And I think if you're gonna take so much from black culture, I mean, especially Kendall, he loves listening to rap and he loves rapping. L to the OG, dude be the OG, and he, what is it? And he playing.
L to the OG, dude be the OG, and he playing like a pro. C, L to the OG, dude be the OG, and he playing like a pro. Make some noise.
That was the funniest. It was a mixture of cringe and funny at the same. I just can't. This show it does a lot for you. It just pulls you into so many directions. Let's move on. We move. You know, yeah, you take so much of hip hop but you know, we don't include people of color. But at the same time, it could also be a commentary on the sort of gangsterist lifestyle and attitude and persona that young, or I guess middle-aged rich white men take in approach to their work. That sort of hippy dippy sort of, I'm cool, you know, which is what Kendall kind of does. And also Roman is always like, what's up, dude? Like, you know, very sort of, I'm cool. So it's like, if you're gonna take so much from you know, African American vernacular, the African American sort of persona, and you know, because I'm sorry, you know, white people didn't invent it. They didn't, right? I mean, rap, they didn't. So people of color. Anyways, apart from that, I have to say that Succession is a show that has. I'm glad I watched it. I think that it's really, dare I say, it's changed my life. Is that like bold? I don't care, whatever. It's changed my life. I think that it's really good. I've been thinking about it a lot. I thought about it a lot when I was watching it. I think that it has such a perfect mixture of keeping you on edge, but also sort of giving you what you signed up for. Which is again comes down to its masterful writing. So many great themes and issues, especially about the real world, that are being discussed in there. I'm sure I've missed plenty of stuff, but those are just the main things that stuck out to me and some of the things that I think about most when I think about the show. But ultimately, just like any TV series, it's a human story. That's what makes it so good. It's just about people, okay, maybe not on the Logan Roy side, but especially when it comes to Kendall and the sort of duality that comes with him and his dad. Man, we can all relate to that, you know, wanting to do better than our parents, or maybe wanting to get their approval, or wanting power and success, you know, we're being power hungry, and at what cost? All those things. Very sort of, I think that even though it caters and talks to the life of the rich and the famous, and you know, the people who you think are so unreachable, at the end of the day, there's a very sort of human aspect to it. We've all felt one of these characters will touch you in one way. One of these characters, you will find a similarity or commonality, and that's the beauty of it. I think that's what makes the show so varied. And also, it's nice watching rich people do rich people shit. You know, it's nice watching people complain about the stupidest thing, you know? But yeah, thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for listening to me rant about Succession. Please leave in the comments below what show or documentary, whatever it is you want me to talk about next and review, and I'll be happy to do that. Until then,